Well, how's it going? I'm Mark Duffy, welcome to my channel. On today's episode, I'm going to give you the best tips for growing your page on Instagram. One of the most frequently asked questions I get all the time is, how did I grow my page on Instagram? Now, I'm not going to claim that I have the biggest following on Instagram. I just hit 30,000 followers last week. I had 2,500 followers last year. So I think the growth is pretty good, but I would love to maybe double it, maybe treble it in the next 12 months. That is my goal by 2019. But I get a lot of questions lately as to how I've grown my page, what is the secret behind it all. And the hard truth of it all is there really isn't a secret behind it. Just a couple of tips and techniques that you can use. But someone putting up a video saying the hacks to algorithm, they change their algorithm so often at this stage. Now, I don't think there's any point in even watching them videos. What was said 2 months ago is now not even been used. So I think there's a couple of tips that you can use that don't hack the algorithm, they don't cheat the algorithm, they just make you a better user on the platform, which is the best way to be and the best way to grow your page. So the first tip is an obvious tip: post often. Nobody's going to follow you if you don't post often. So I'm not saying to post every day, 4 times a day. Nobody wants to see that, but if you post maybe once or twice a day, or maybe just once a day, that's grand, because your page is going to be on people's newsfeed more and more often, and then people who follow you will be liking a lot more of your photos. Then people who follow them will be seeing what they're liking, what they're commenting on, and they'll get nosy, and your page could be the page that they check you out. And there you go. That is a new follower that you generated just from posting often. The next tip, I think, is the most important tip of all when using Instagram, and it's not utilized the best by a lot of people. And that is, use the right hashtags. So many people I see email me, I have a look. The first thing I do is I have a look at the photos. The next thing I do is I have a look at the hashtags. And I see so often hashtag photography, hashtag camera. Who's searching them things? Hashtags are the most basic form of search engine optimization. It's the same way you do your tags on YouTube, you do your tags on your website for Google searches, in the same way you do your hashtags. It all has to be relevant to the content you're doing, and it has to be searchable, a regular thing that people are going to be searching. Nobody's searching photography and nobody's searching camera on Instagram. People are searching Canon, Fuji, Sony, all the camera brands, Nikon, and then as well as that, they're going to the styles of photos. They're like sunsets, sunrises, long exposures. It could be even more specific than that: Ireland, Dublin Castle, Trim Castle, stuff like that. But the best thing that you can do is still avoid them kind of hashtags. The best thing you can do is go after the curation pages. They're the ones who are going to get you the biggest following. They're going to be the ones who are going to reach you to people that you would normally not be able to reach. So what you do with the curation pages, you find the biggest ones you can. Now, don't be going mad looking at 2 million and 3 million. Even with me with the 30,000 followers, I would never ever hashtag a page with 1 million to 2 million followers, because I'm never going to get seen to get featured. So I'd be realistic with it. Between 20,000 and 150 to 200,000 is the bracket that you should be looking at for pages. So have a look at the bio and see what way they are featuring. Sometimes they may not say it in the bio, so go into the photos and have a look, and they'll give it the description. You may have to DM them, you may have to send them direct emails, use a hashtag, or even tag the page. My best recommendation, and this also covers point 3, is use their hashtag and tag their page, because when you tag their page, it gets landed on their page. So their followers can go in, see photos of them, and see your photo, and if people like it, they can go in and see it that way as well. So that's another way of gaining more people to see your page. Use the right hashtags, hashtag curation pages, tag curation pages. Next point, use the platform as it was supposed to be used. Use it as a user. Stop trying to break it, stop trying to cheat around it. You know, you're not Neo from the Matrix, you're not going to get out of it to get to the end finish line quicker. You're just going to have to use it. I use it all the time. I use it all day, every day. I'm constantly on it because I'm a big fan of photography. I only got into photography 2 years ago, on about, not exactly, but about the 25th of January 2016, I got my first DSLR. I never had a DSLR before that. I never knew anything about photography before that. I did a time lapse with a GoPro. You can see it right here. And that's what got me into photography. And I've been loving photography ever since. But Instagram, I used to be checking, I'm still am, I'm just going through feeds and just being an absolute fanboy of really great photography. Next point is related to this one. Look for photography that you like, see what other people are doing and try and replicate that. Try and reverse engineer how they're doing that photo and how you can apply that to your photos, to the landscapes that you live by. And also, if you start searching hashtags that are related to your location, you can find places that you can go to, that you can recreate them photos, or say, I want to go to that location, but I think there's a better angle. And that's always the best attitude to have when it comes to photography. I've seen your picture, but I want to do it my way. I think my way could be better. I want to be different. I want to stand out. Don't always go to do the same thing as well. Change it up. Try and put your own stamp on it every time. That's the only way you're going to stand out. And the whole thing about this is you want to stand out. Okay, so the next point I'm going to talk about now has nothing to do with Instagram, but is possibly even more important than Instagram. What is Instagram basically? If you strip it all down, what is Instagram? But a platform for posting photos, your photos. So if you don't have great photos in the beginning, how can you expect to get a good following? Now, that is not me trying to brag that I have the best photos in the world. I really don't, and I'm really critical of my stuff. But I do aim to put out the best that I can do at that time of whatever standard that I'm at. If my photos don't reach a standard, I don't post them, and that's the rule. That's the first rule you should always live by. If you look at people like Elia Locardi, he says it all the time. He only posts. I'm going to paraphrase right now, but I'm nearly certain he's quoted in saying with one of the Fstoppers videos, and I'll leave links down below for them. He has said before he only posts about maybe 1% of all photos he takes. That's how critical he is. I'm not that critical of my stuff. I don't get out and photograph as much either. He's a travel photographer full-time. I'm not. I'm a hobbyist. This is a weekend thing. I'm a graphic designer by trade. So I get out as much as I can. In the summer I have a lot more time to get out. But I always strive to put out the best, because I know from being a graphic designer, your portfolio is the selling point. You're only as good as your last project. So if you're only as good as your last photo, you need to better that photo every time. Your photo should be getting better every time. So what you need to make sure is you need to make sure that you're composing your photos correctly. Just go back to the basics, like stuff like the rule of thirds. People always say rules are there to be broken, and to be honest, my opinion is if you don't even know how to use the rules, how do you know you're breaking them? And when it comes to the rule of thirds, I rarely ever break it. I would use rule of thirds for absolutely everything except for reflections. There's another rule for reflections, and I'll come back to that in a second. So we'll go back to rule of thirds. How does it work for me? The way I look at it is, for a landscape, because I do landscape photography, if I have a nice sky, I want to show that off. So I put the horizon down in the bottom third. If I have a bad sky or a really interesting foreground, I put the horizon to the top third. And then I just focus in on where I want to place my stuff, left or right of the rule of thirds again. Now, the left and right is pretty important when it comes to your Instagram, because don't forget, you have that 1:1 ratio thumbnail. And if you have stuff too out wide, you're going to miss it from the thumbnail. Your thumbnail is not going to be as impactful as it can be. So you also need to think about that while you're shooting on location. That is it going to be too wide, and is it acceptable enough for you that it might not be visible in the thumbnail for people to click into? But then again, that could be that nice reveal. Someone sees a nice part of your photo, clicks in, and then it reveals for a more interesting photo out of that. So back to the reflections rule then. So the way I work the rule for the reflections is the same way you're trying to do, you know, that butterfly effect with the watercolors. So you get your piece of paper and you paint on one side, and then you fold the other side of the paper over and you open it and it reveals your butterfly. Treat the same for your reflection. So you've got your buildings, you've got your reflection. Should be in the middle of your image because you want to see that. It also depends on the shot. If it doesn't call upon it, don't do it, you know, just move it. It all depends at the time, on location, whatever suits the photo best. The next point really helps out your rule of thirds and making your photo an impactful photo, and it's leading lines. And what leading lines do is they tell your audience where you want them to look at. A standard one, a really well-known one, is them piers on a lake and stuff, where you see them leading straight into the image from the corners, from corner to corner, right into the center, brings the viewer right in. And that's what you want to do. You want to tell the viewer or the user, or whatever you want to call them, your followers, you want to tell your follower where you want them to look. You don't want them guessing. They want to be looking directly where you want them to be looking, and leading lines is how you do it. And my last point is plan your photos. The best photos that you'll ever find are usually ones that have been planned well in advance. And it doesn't even necessarily mean that you're planning and you're obsessing about this one scene over and over again. It could be a simple thing of just planning to be at a location at the right time. what's the right time? To some people this may seem obvious, to some people this may be something new. You want to be going after golden hour. So golden hour is the hour after the sun rises and the hour before the sun sets. So you're going after sunrise and sunset. You can also get out of them blue hour. Blue hour is the possible 40 minutes to 45 minutes before the sun rises and about the same after the sun sets. So you have them 4 options there. And then as well as that, you have nighttime photography. So that's going to be your Milky Ways, your star trails, all that kind of stuff as well. So it depends what you want, what suits the scenes best, or what is the availability for all that. So when you plan ahead, that's going to absolutely add more to your photography. Another part of planning is to get there in time to go around the location and find the best photo. So when you find that, get your tripod, lock it off, and you sit there and wait for the golden hour to come and wait for the best light there. Take your photo. You might sit there for an hour, take 3 photos, but at least they're 3 of the best of what you could be, instead of just wandering around, just snap happy. Some people do that with the best ones, or if you're committed to the best composition and wait for the best light to happen. Okay, so I hope them points help you out in bettering your photography and getting a better followership on Instagram and other social medias as well. The only tip I can really give for anyone who's wondering about Facebook is join some groups, photography groups, and just share your photos. Post them on your page, share them on your profile page, and then share them across different photography groups. Facebook really crush your reach, so the only way you can really reach more people is actually by sharing and just conversing on different photography groups. If to put it in perspective, I have 30,000 followers on Instagram. I've just over 5,500 followers on Facebook in the same amount of time. So you can see it's very hard to grow on Facebook, but you still can post, you know, full-size images, which is great. I hope you like this. I hope you got something from it. If you want to check me out on Instagram, you can see it here. My handle is @MarkDuffyPhotography. I'm @MarkDuffyPhotography on every social media going. So just search that, you'll find me somewhere. And yeah, until the next time, later Gators.